The other guy, when I let him go, he gets up, tells the guy to go ahead and kill me. So the guy walks up, points the gun at me, was like, I bet you next time you let my nigga go. Holy Spirit told me to get up and run. I got up and ran. Then the guy shot me 4 times in the back area. Hey, I'm doing good. And yourself? Deep in the heart of Texas. I'm in Houston, Texas. Yeah, not only am I in Houston, Texas, but I'm deep in the heart of Houston, Southwest Alief, Texas. The
Okay, I've
SWAT.
never been. Okay.
Yeah, so the SWAT is where all your famous people from, me, for one. A lot of artists. I went to Elsik High School. Beyonce went to Elsik. Lizzo went to Elsik. There's people in movie, fashion, and film, have gone to Elsik. Anybody from Houston has gone to Elsik that's in the music business. So it's a very talented place where a lot of Black people grew up and lived. She didn't, but we won't hold that against her. Thank you for having me. I'm ready. You ready? Well, it's a lot to it, but basically I was went through a workplace shooting. So it was 8 years ago, and it was when it wasn't as popularized. They were happening here and there, but with the upscaling of social media and people recording and things of that nature, they became more instantaneous. People reporting them right away, news stations reporting them right away. Back in my day, it was a cover up from the company, from the city and the cops to suppress things. So, no company, no city, no wanted to have, people in fear or, oh, this is happening in their city, their town, at their company. So, it's like when I grew up, I remember when they had the shooting with the postal worker, and that's where the term going postal came from. Yeah. So I remember that growing up and watching that on TV and things. Never thought I would be in that type of situation, but that's where I found myself. So, this is just like a segment out of my life, but pretty much I was at work, heard a call for male assistance, went, answered the call, and it was just going down. And I was pretty much put in a place where I had to act fast, think faster, and realize I had to get people to safety. I was in retail management. I had to get some people to safety, save several of my coworkers' lives. In the midst of it, I got shot 5 times. Yes. So I got shot in my upper left torso, which was crazy because I was holding one of the guys, and using him as a shield, thinking that the other guy wasn't going to shoot. That was not the case. Not only was the other guy willing to shoot, but the guy that I was holding to kind of like use as a shield for people to get to safety, he was telling the other guy, shooting. And so the guy shot me in the upper left side of my torso. Bullet ricocheted off my rib cage. And at that point, I was like, yeah, these guys are killers, because there wasn't that much room for him to have a target. So that was kind of crazy. At that point in time, the guy I was holding, actually, he headbutted backwards. And so I pulled him back with me, and we both landed on the ground. So I got him at this point in time, I got him on top of me, and I'm holding him with the other shooter just, over us. And so the guy like, let my nigga go. And so I'm like, trying to talk to him and like, hey, this is over with. We can hear the police coming, all this stuff, just going about your business. Everybody just leave, going to get away. They wasn't worried about that. And so when I let the guy go, I'm on the ground, got my hands up in the air, and I got my feet bent because, I'm laying on my back on the ground. And the other guy, when I let him go, he gets up, he tells the guy to go ahead and kill me. So the guy walks up, points the gun at me, and was like, I bet you next time you let my nigga go. And then at that point in time, it seemed like everything just slowed down. Like, you see those movies where the action going real fast and then something happened and it just slows down. And it seemed like that 1 to 3 seconds take like a whole 30 to 40 seconds. That's what it was like. So I'm laying there and I'm thinking to myself about my kids. I asked God, I was like, God, is this what it's like when you're about to be murdered? Because I figured I was going to be murdered. I was dying. Jesus, here I come. And so I'm laying there. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about who's going to tell them. I'm thinking about how they're going to react. I got 5 kids, 2 daughters, 3 sons. They're all young adults. At this particular time, I only had one that wasn't a young adult. She was 13 at the time. But my other kids were young adults. And I'm sitting there wondering how they're going to react. And then all of a sudden, it's like I could see him pulling the trigger back, and it was kind of dark. There wasn't a bunch of lights because at this point in time, we were outside the building. And I'm just thinking, that's it. I'm about to die. And right then and there, I remember the Holy Spirit of God telling me to roll over. And I rolled over, and right then, the shot that would have hit me center mass in my chest hit behind me, ricocheted off the ground. Holy Spirit told me to get up and run. I got up and ran. And then the guy shot me 4 times in the back area. So I had a bullet go in and travel down and miss my femoral artery by a centimeter. And when the bullet fragment, when I got to the hospital, the nurse I was complaining about my growing area. Something was irritating me. So the nurse, he examines the area and the bullet fragment is sticking out of my skin to the point where he could just pull it out with his fingers.
Wow.
And that's what he did. The other 3, I got hit on my right side of my buttocks area. That's the nice way to put it. Most people say, "Oh, he got shot in the, the A." But yeah. So I had 3 bullets go there. One went in my gluteus maximus muscle itself, and the other 2 were in the tissue area. So I had, one was on the left side in the tissue area. The other 2 were on the right side. One inside the glute muscle, and then one inside the glute tissue. And I had that one removed by surgery. So the good thing about it is the caliber of gun they used was either, they said, a 22 or a 32. The bullet is designed to be shot at a certain distance. And so when he shot me, I was closer to him. So it actually didn't peel and hit on the impact to spread throughout my body. And then also because I was closer to him than needed to be for the bullet to do its damage, when it went in my body, it was so hot that it cauterized the entry wound. So that it was hard for the medics and then to find. And at first they were like, "Are you sure you were shot?" I'm like, "I can feel the hot metal in my body." I mean, that's something that you just, I kind of chuckle and laugh now, but it was 7 years of, hardship. For 7 years, I was sleep deprived. For the first 10 days, I didn't sleep at all. I suffered from PTSD, which I had no clue about beforehand. So when it was happening to me, if you think about having a mental seizure, like if you see somebody have a seizure, they can't control their body. So with PTSD, it's like having a mental seizure. So it's hard to control your mind. It's hard to control your emotions, your feelings, your body. It's like, you ever have a bug on your phone or your computer and it's just doing whatever it want to do and you trying to stop it, but you can't? That's the same way. I try to describe it to people as when I have an episode, when my PTSD is triggered, it's like me being thrown out of a plane and without a parachute and somebody telling me to swim to save myself. you just got to go through the process. And so I've had to learn breathing techniques. I've had to learn, my triggers. Had to change my lifestyle up a little bit as far as putting myself around things because certain things trigger me. Like my greatest trigger is cigarettes. And I didn't know that at first, but I had an incident after the shooting where I was sitting on a patio at a Starbucks and I'm just enjoying my coffee, enjoying the day. And this guy comes and he lights a cigarette. And I mean, I go from 0 to 1,000 like that. At the time, I didn't know, but I go from just sitting there to in this guy's face. And it was like I was having an outer body experience. It was like I was looking at myself, like losing it. And I'm like, where did this guy come from? And when I realized, like looking at this guy and seeing the fear in his face, I felt so embarrassed. I felt shame, defeat. I felt helpless. And I remember walking off to the side and I was in tears. I was bawling. And I remember the management and the staff and some people coming out of the Starbucks, rushing out, asking what happened. And the guy said, I don't know. I just lit a cigarette. The manager knew what I had been through. So she came over, she talked to me, kind of comforted me, was like, you need some water, take as much time as you need to calm down, things of that nature. I was just shocked that I even acted that way. As I went, I've been in therapy for 8 years, but as I went through therapy, we talked about it. I did some exercises, some meditation, some memory things that kind of like help bring up the scene, the scenery, the senses. Come to find out that when I was wrestling with the guy, he was trying to get into his pocket. And I figured he had a knife or another gun. So I was wrestling with his hand, holding his hand. Well, afterwards, my hand smelled like Newports because he was a smoker. I didn't pick that up right away, but I would pick it up later going through therapy. And so cigarettes is like my number one trigger. And it's associated with the fact that this guy was trying to not only kill other coworkers, but also had told the other guy to shoot me. And then when I let him go and he got up, he told him to go ahead and kill me. Yeah. So, before I answer that question, I want to say thank you for commending me. I know that a lot of Black people don't, especially Black men. I don't need no white man telling me anything. Well, find you a Black therapist then. Let a Black man tell you something. Problem is, we as men don't want nobody telling us anything when it comes to our bruised egos. And I'm glad to have said it because it needs to come from another man. Yeah. We have these Superman complex. We think that, we can take it and just bounce back and keep moving. And so, when we look at women and say, oh, she got that strong Black woman's mentality, most women have gotten it from their moms. Most moms have gotten it from Black men. So it's just been passed along. Yeah. And, we all need to take ownership and get not only the health, but also the mental health and the spiritual health that we need as well, because we're spiritual beings. So yes, we are. I want to say thank you for that. I will tell you that, yes, I've had people shame me. I've had men, I've had women. I remember when I first started going, my aunt called me and she was like, I am so proud of you. I'm like, for what, auntie? She said, because your mom told me that you're going to get some mental help. And she was like, you just don't know. Black men don't do that. And I'm so proud of you. And I was like, well, auntie, I need it. I mean, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm like having these episodes and back then I was hallucinating. I was having nightmares. I wasn't sleeping. I had 7 years of sleep deprivation. So with all that being said and what I was going through, what got me through it, I would say that happened in, the day after Black Friday, November 2000. What got me through it is what happened on December of 2000. And that was, I was almost 400 pounds. Wow. I had gone to my doctor. Yes. I lost a whole person. The average man weighs 168 pounds. I lost 100 pounds. Yes. Thank you. My doctor told me I needed to lose 40 pounds or it was going to lose me. I told him, I said, no, 40. I said, man, I'm too busy. I got kids. I got work. I got school. I got this. I got that. He said, how much time are you going to have when you're dead?
Right.
So I began to try to exercise. Okay. Now, I played basketball. I played football in school and everything, organized sports. I did the weightlifting. You know, they made us run track in the off season for conditioning. So I knew the things I needed to do. The problem is it had been decades since I did those things. Okay. And so I tried and I had no motivation. My body was hurting. My knees was hurting. I had body parts that were invented to hurt when I started trying to work out. And it was just terrible. So I ended up running and I started with 15 minutes at a time. Okay. And I would do that for a week. And when I got to the point where I can do 2 miles, I would run 2 miles for a week and take a rest day on the 7th day. And then the next week I did 6 days, 2 miles, rested. Then the next week I did 3 miles, whether it was a mile and a half in the morning and a mile and a half at night, or a mile in the morning, a mile at lunch, and a mile at night before I took a shower. And then 3 turned into 4, 4 turned into 5. Next thing you know, in the first year, I changed my diet and I was running and I lost 100 pounds in the first year. So 4 years after that, the next 4 years, I would lose a total of 78 pounds. So when the shooting took place, I went from this 400-pound dude over 5 years to now I wasn't even 219 in high school. The last time I was I was in the 8th grade. So what? I was the size I was in the 8th grade. 6th, yeah. So
219, 8th grade?
Yes. And so I was a lean, mean running machine. Okay. And so I was running everywhere. And so my long runs would be anywhere on the weekend. I would run anywhere from 18 to 30 miles and trail running. And I just enjoyed it. It was relaxing. It was peaceful. I got time to connect with God. And it was just so wonderful. And then sometimes I would, if I had to work, then that dictated how many miles I would run.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I actually went through the shooting and the detective came up to the hospital to interview me, he said, I heard you used to weigh 400 pounds. I said, yeah. What they got to do with me getting shot? He said, man, do you realize that if you had still weighed 400 pounds, there was no way you would have been able to hop up to your feet and run like you did? He said, you would be dead right now. And I said, yeah, you're right. So that statement that detective made was refocusing me, recentering me. Mm-hmm. That just like running got me through the weight and emotional eating and the comfort food eating and all that stuff that I had gone through emotionally, running was going to keep me through I didn't even know what I was going to go through.
Honestly, after it happened. Yeah.
Looking back, hindsight 2020, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
There was so many benefits to me losing the weight, but I agree with you. The purpose for it was so that I could live through what I would go through. And a lot of times, people want to avoid stuff, especially in our culture. People, if they mess with my peace, I ain't dealing with them and this and that. I tell people, look here, if you got a piece that can be messed with, let me introduce you to Jesus Christ. That's what I tell them, because it's like nobody wants to go through anything. Nobody wants to suffer anything. Nobody wants to discipline themselves. It's like we all want everybody to be for us what we're not willing to become for everybody else, even ourselves. And so going through something like that was, I mean, so what you don't know, that was the initial shooting. These guys, because of whatever was going on, and I have no idea what the whole story is to this day, but because of what happened, the organized crime unit with the Houston Police Department got involved, and these guys would go on to try to kill me 3 more times. Well, I was able to identify them, and I wanted them prosecuted, but I don't know the whole story of why. Now, as a man, I figure, oh, I didn't finish the job. Let me go finish the job. You know, because it's a respect thing, you know, especially out in the streets, something like that. Whatever these guys, you know, whatever got them to do what they did, they didn't finish the job. And so they came after me to finish the job. After the shooting, I was out running. I'd started back running because running was helping me get through all of this. So I started back running, and I was running down. We got bayous in Houston. It's the Bayou City. You know, Buffalo Bayou is the biggest one, but we got a channel of different bayous. And so it's the Bayou City, basically. So we have bayous. So they put these trails on the side of the bayou where people can exercise and run. And so I was going from one park to another park, and I'm running along the bayou, and I go through the second park, and I'm running along the bayou. So about every mile is a street that crosses the bayou. Which is good because that helps you keep track of how far you've gone. So I'm running, and I see this guy pull up on this bridge in this white car, and he gets out and he's looking over the rail, and I'm not the only one out there. So I'm thinking, well, maybe this dude looking for somebody. Never crossed my mind that he was looking for me. And so as I get closer, he hops in his car and he drives off. Well, I cross that bridge, and the next one is a mile away. So I'm still running. I get to the next bridge, and right before I get there, the Holy Spirit tells me someone's going to shoot at you, fall down and play dead. I'm thinking to myself, you going crazy. You done lost it. You need to call your doctor and tell him to have you admitted. So I'm like, is this you? You know, because remember, I'm sleep deprived. I've had triggers. All this stuff is happening to me, and I'm just learning what it is. So I run through the intersection to cross the street. To the right of me, there's this electrical box where they have different stuff in there or whatever for utilities. Well, there was the white car that I seen on the bridge a mile back was now pulled to the side of that electrical box. And so when I seen that out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, this is real. So I keep running. The next thing I hear is gunshot. So what do? Drop down and play dead. So I'm laying there like, no. Laughter is good for the soul. I've been through a living hell. Listen. There was a point in time I couldn't laugh about this. There was a point in time to think about this would make me cry, would spin me into depression. My crying spells would last for 2 to 4 hours. I would end up in the hospital for medical help to try to get out of what I was going through with the PTSD. So no need to apologize. This is healing. And this is why I'm telling my story. Because one, it's healing for me. And it's helping healing for somebody else. They may have not gone through a shooting, but PTSD is just post-traumatic stress disorder. So there's a lot of traumas that people have that stress their body, and the disorder is how you handle it. Well, with my disorder that stressed their body, and the disorder is how you handle it. Well, with my disorder, the serotonin that was produced in my mind no longer produces on a level that my mind should. The reason why is because the day of the initial shooting and what I was going through, the adrenaline was running so high in me. But at the same time, my body started shutting down to protect itself.
Yeah.
So when the ambulance got there and they took my blood pressure, it was 260 over 210.
You should have been dead.
Yes. My mind started to shut down to prevent itself from stroking.
Oh, wow.
So I don't have the full capacity to process like I used to.
It's okay. Okay. I
Now,
understand.
there's a lot of people that's out there that says, oh, we can reboot your mind up just like a computer. We can fix that sector and we can, and I've heard it all, but there's no scientific proof that that is capable.
Okay.
That happens. That's why when you have stroke victims and you see people, they walk a certain way, they faces a certain way or whatever, that's just a symptom of the stroke. But what has happened is part of their brain is damaged, shut down. And so my serotonin level is like that.
Okay.
So when this guy shot at me, I'm laying there playing dead. I'm deader than a doornail. I'm serious. I could have got an academy. I would have been the one up there smacking Will Smith. I'm just saying, but the guy was running over to me to shoot some more. There were houses on both sides of the bayou. So people started looking out of their windows and saying stuff. And then people started coming from around the corner. So the guy he ran back to his car because he was going to run up on me and shoot me some more. Well, and I'm watching him the whole time. I get a description of him and everything. I don't move. I don't breathe until there's like a crowd of people that's starting to come over. And I know this guy's totally gone.
Yeah.
And then I'm afraid to move. And people are asking me, were you hit? I said, I don't think so, but that don't mean I wasn't. Because from the first incident, I remember I felt 3 bullets in me. But when they did the scans and everything, it was additional bullet fragments in me. So I was like, I don't feel any hot metal in me, but I'm not sure. So the one guy was like, my wife is coming. She's a nurse. We'll get you checked out, this and that. So she comes and she's asking, and I tell her the same thing. I let her know that, I suffer from PTSD. I said, I was in a workplace shooting. These guys have tried to kill me before last time I got shot. So I'm telling her all this stuff.
Right.
The police come, interview me. I tell them everything. I give them a full description of the car, the guy, his cap that he had on. And then after that, I called down to the Houston Police Department, the organized crime unit, the detective that's handling whatever they're doing with these guys. So this detective that I'm now knowing that's handled everything, I call him and I tell him, I said, hey, your Goonies tried to kill me. He said, how do you know it was my guys? And I said, because you just told me. And so he said, what do you mean? I said, you just told me what I needed to know. And so I told him what happened to me and everything. He's like, well, I'm gonna call out there and get the information from the police and look into this, and I'll call you back. So 2 weeks later, give or take, I'm at my mom's and I'm watching the news, and they had a killing out in Katy, Texas, which is next to Houston, which was about several miles down from where I was running, where the guy tried to kill me.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the news. Well, the news shows a clip of the car. And when I see the car, I'm like, that look like the car the guy was driving when he tried to shoot me.
Right.
So next thing you know, they talk about this guy and how he goes into the Buffalo Wild Wings. Now he's asking for help and he collapses and dies.
Gosh.
So they show a clip of his cap on the ground. That is the cap that the guy was wearing when he shot at me. I got the car, I got the cap. Show the guy. Of course, they're not going to show the guy because it's a dead body. Ring, 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 ring. Detective, sir. There's a story on the news right now about a guy out in Katy. They got killed tonight. The car and the cap is the same guy. Car and cap that shot at me. I need to see a picture of this guy because I've already given y'all a description of him, the car and the cap, and they both match. I want to see a picture of the guy. Where was this? You get all the information. Let me call you back. Guess who has never called me back? And guess who has never taken my phone calls?
Well, sometimes God will will do things for us that we didn't necessarily need to do ourselves. That's how I'm going to say it, and that's how I look at it at this point. Because it seems like it's, wow, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
And that was just That was the first time. Remember I told you they tried to kill me 3 more
Yeah, yeah,
times?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there were 2 more times that they did, including one time where they, I don't know how they found out where I lived, but they had shot a guy at an AT&T store, took his wallet, a bloody t-shirt and a bloody bandana, set it outside my stoop of my door as an act of intimidation because I was pushing this cop to have him prosecuted.
Ooh, Aaron, that's a lot.
So the last time they tried to kill me was I was coming out of my apartment and this guy is stooped down. I don't see him now going along the cars coming up towards me while I'm getting in my vehicle. Well, a neighbor was walking to his car and bumped into the guy. So he was like, man, what's going on? So the guy got his hand behind his back. He's like, oh man, I'm sorry. I'm just looking for my girlfriend's place. And I'm looking because I back in and I'm always looking at my surroundings. Another thing I suffered from and do suffer from is hypervigilance.
Okay.
With my PTSD. And I explain it to people like, you notice every little thing, sound, sights, your senses get just like crazy. So the guy continues to walk over and he says, excuse me. He says it loud, but then when he starts talking, he's talking low. And I say, dude, I can't hear you. And he said, oh, I'm looking for apartment such and such. I'm trying to pick my girl up. There's a map up front you can go look at. And they got a call box. He's like, yeah, but you know, and he says something else and I can't hear him. I say, dude, I can't hear you. So he walks up even closer. So now he's a car and a half away from me. And I told him that's far enough. And I reached down in my car like I was getting a gun. I ain't have a gun, but I realized he had something behind his back. He trying to talk to me. I was like, dude, I can't help you with nothing else. He walks off backwards and he say, I got you. We'll catch you later. So I go, which was Starbucks where I was going anyway. One of the police officers that know me, that know about the situation, he sees me and he says, are you okay? And I tell him no. I say, they tried to kill me just now. Comes over to me and sits down at a table, open up his computer and stuff and puts my information in and he's reading, closes his laptop, don't even look at me, gets up and walk out.
I have no idea. Well, I mean, thankfully, I want to say this, at least it's done, it's in the past. That is a very interesting story. Like I did tell you in the beginning, you know, nothing can surprise me. I've heard so much stuff. Now this is one for the books, I will say. Have you ever thought about putting this in a book?
No, I just been telling my story because it's been keeping me alive.
I respect it. I do. It's a very interesting story. I think it would make a great book, probably a great Lifetime movie or a script or something like that. I think you should look into that, tap into that, and see if you could do that. Because you never know.
For instance, the book that this guy wrote about me called Metal Monday, about my quest to run 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 weeks, 5 years after being shot. I tell people all the time, I didn't write that book. That book wrote me.
Oh, okay.
This guy just interviewed me over a period of a year and compiled it, each interview into my words on page. I didn't even have the wherewithal to write something like that. And then the cover was done by another guy in Sugar Land, Texas, a friend of mine named Freddie. So that book, like I tell people, I didn't write it. It wrote me. You wouldn't be the first person to say that. However, when you're literally just trying to survive and like just been focusing on trying to sleep, you can't think about a lot of different things. My mindset and where I'm at has literally been survival mode.
Yeah, I get it. I totally understand. I totally understand. I thank you, Aaron, for coming and sharing your story. So where can people find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
At The Running Servant on Instagram.
Okay.
They can Google The Running Servant and pull up all kind of stuff about me.
Right.
And they can get the book from me directly. If they go to Facebook, Aaron Burros on Facebook, connect with me on there, connect with me on Instagram, or you can get the book on Amazon. It's on Amazon Kindle. But if you want an autograph copy, they need to connect with me on social media. Send me an email, aaronburros@yahoo.com, AARONBURROS@yahoo.com, and let me know you want an autograph copy. I'll get you one. And but I'm going to do all that you've said. It is happening in stages and things do happen for a reason. And more than anything I know is that God has protected me even before I knew that I needed that protection.
Exactly. We're going to end with that. I thank you, Aaron, for coming and sharing your story. I thank everyone for tuning in, whether they're listening on audio or watching the video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like, share, comment, hit that notification bell, follow us on Instagram at Unloaded and Uncovered Podcast, and don't forget to find and like us on Facebook, Unloaded and Uncovered. Aaron, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to share your story.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, I will see you next week with a brand new episode. Bye.